today we're going to specifically be talking about the organization chart, and we're going to discuss technically how to add boxes and maneuver the chart. But more importantly, we're going to talk about how to build a good organizational chart, how to build good organizational strategy. And then we're going to end with ideas on how to use that organizational strategy or that organizational chart, because there are ways that you can use this not just as a strategy tool, but of a way to manage what's going on in your business in the current situation. At the very end, I'm going to highlight a few processes from our process library and talk about those for a bit. And with the hope being that if you haven't implemented those processes, I think I'm going to do three that you would, maybe go and download those and take a look and implement them. Two of them are really easy to do, and they're kind of like welcome to the company, this is who we are kind of processes that are good for your employees to see, or even if you're a manager, good for your department to see. And then the last is on strategic planning or creating a strategic target, which is always a great thing to do at the beginning of the year, unless you're on a fiscal year. Even if you aren't, I think energetically it's great to do it, in December, end of December, and looking across what you want to do in your business for the next year. Before we get started on all of that, I had an overwhelming amount of people who wanted to see this Scribe again, because I kind of rushed through that. So I'm going to show it here. It's not going to take more than like 5 minutes. And then I will show you in the Resource Center how you can go to see a step-by-step on Scribe. So I'm going to go here to the four functions, and let's go to Administration Finance. Then I'm going to add a process, and this is just all for example's sake. I'm going to call this Loom. So for those of you who don't know, Loom is a screen video recording tool. And you can see I added it right down here to information technology. So in a subfunction like IT, you would have how-tos on using the different software programs that your company uses. Even if it's just a link to their tutorials on how to use that software, if those are good enough, then at least you would have that like identified as a thing, a resource that your employees need to use, and then a link to how to use it. So here we are in this one called Loom. And this would just be like, Loom how-tos, a simple objective. And I normally wouldn't capitalize that. So since I'm doing this for real, Loom how-tos like a phrase or sentence, save. And then I'm going to build a work plan, and I'm going to call this Loom videos. And I'll capitalize the first letter of every word. So you want to choose the title of what it is that you're going to be creating the step-by-step for. So let's do create work plan. Okay, so now we're in Loom videos. Now I would know that to demonstrate how to use a tool like Loom, I could use Scribe to do that, because Scribe is this screen capture step-by-step tool that will record how to use computer systems, so things that happen on your computer, on the web, or even on your desktop. So I go here to Scribe Embed, and I'm just going to leave this open. If you don't have a Scribe account, you can click here and create one. The free version of Scribe is perfectly fine for what we're doing. So this is Scribe. This is what it would look like when you create your account. And all I would do is I would first open up a tab to get to Loom. And I've got it here in my Chrome plugin. So this is Loom. So you'd open up whatever software you're going to be doing the demonstration of. Then I would go back to Scribe here, and I'd go New. Super easy. This is something in the browser. So this is like a web tool as opposed to a tool on your desktop, which is software. So I go Browser, and then I'm going to choose the tab that this software that I'm about to demonstrate, or I'm about to create a step-by-step for. I go to it in that window. So now it's opening up. It's got Loom behind it, and this is the Scribe that's starting to capture my screen movements. So to create a Loom video, you choose full screen, So I choose full screen, or you can choose window. So I can go to each one of those and it's kind of demonstrating. So I could go back and go, okay, I can do current tab. So I'm basically clicking around like I would if I was going to be creating a Loom video. Then I could go down here and show how to change the background. So if I want to change the background, I could go purple. There's the background. I could do text layout. I could choose a template. But then once I want to create the loom, I go down here to close out of this. Then I go to start. So you get the idea. It's over here. It's capturing every click that I'm making. So then I would go down here to complete capture when I'm finished. Now it's creating the capture, completing the capture, and you see here's the step by step. It even titled it for me, creating a custom template in Loom. Well, it ended with the template because I didn't actually click the button to record, but it is intuitive enough that it could name things for you, but clearly you could change that. So I'm just scrolling through and showing you. It's showing everything that I clipped. Over here is some more advanced things that you can do with Loom. When I'm done or happy with it, I go to share. And then all I'm going to do is click embed. Super easy. Then I go copy embed code. And it says copied. Easy as that. Then I'm going to go back to TouchStone. And then I'm just going to paste this Scribe embed. And I hit save. So then the Scribe embed is created into a work plan. So you can see here, here's the step-by-step. Now, if I was to go back to, this is actually living in Scribe. So if I was to go back to Scribe and I edited this at all, it would update it automatically in TouchStone. So whatever edits or changes you make in Scribe, it will update it automatically here in TouchStone. So once you create a work plan like this Scribe, I would then go and add it to a position on the positions who are accountable for it. I'm going to add it here. So you're linking it to the people who need to know. And now when they go to their dashboard, I mean, you could even go and send people an assignment saying, I just created this great new Loom step by step, which took you maybe 10 minutes at the most. Sign it to them and say, hey, now it's available in TouchStone. So that's Scribe. If you want to see that in way slower, just go to the Resource Center and search Scribe. And then right here, it gives you, a step-by-step for how to create an account and how to do all that I just did. All right. Let's go to the organization chart. So first, we're just going to talk about how to use the chart. It's very easy. If you want to edit the title of any of the boxes that exist on your chart, you just hit these little three dots here, and then you can edit this position title, you can add a new one, or you can delete it. Use the chart on a desktop computer or a laptop, but if you use it on a laptop, make sure you have a mouse. Just because those of you who don't have a mouse, you kind of get into this wow going back and forth when you're using it with your finger on a pad. Um, it's better to have a mouse because then you can control it. But if you start to zoom, I'm just zooming my mouse in and out to show you. If it gets like this and you're like, you can't get it back, just go and refresh and then it's going to go back to its original size. But the key to this is to use it with a mouse. If somebody is looking at this on their phone, you're not going to have that zoom in and out wow thing. You just kind of um, push your fingers in and out, and the chart will go in and out, or you push it left to the right. This is an easier way to kind of navigate. I'm just holding my mouse down and it's going back and up and down. This little dot is showing you where I'm holding my mouse down. If you want, once you add a new position, so let's add a position, let's do here, and we go add, then it's just going to throw a blank box down underneath the position you added it under. And then you can go to the little three dots in this box and you can go edit, and then you can type in the name of the position. So when you type in names, just remember these are position titles. These aren't people's names. So that's one thing that's important. We want to not make this people dependency and not create a chart full of people and say, well, that person does this. It's the other way around. These are position titles. This position is responsible for certain things, and that person fills that role. That person in that position is responsible for whatever goes on in this position. I can also move boxes around the chart just by drag and drop. So if I take this one and I drag it here, then it's going to throw it underneath this position that I put it inside of. So take the box, put it inside of this one and let go, and now it's under here. If you move a whole tree like this, if I was to put this under here, you can see it move the whole tree underneath this position now. So if you move a managerial position or one that has positions underneath it, then you're going to move the whole tree. And if that wasn't your intention, then you just need to take these, and move them back to where you want them to be. If I want to move this back, I just grab this box again. And now since I want it under president, I've got to drag it inside of president, and then it flips back to where it was. If you want to delete a box on the chart, also easy. Hit the little three dots, hit remove. It's going to say, are you sure? And you say, okay. And now that position's gone. The only consequence of deleting a position is that if you had created a process list inside of that position, so if we click here, you'll see what I mean. This is a list of processes that have been added to the customer support role. If you delete that box, it's going to delete this list of processes. These processes won't be deleted because they actually live on the 4 key functions. So here they're just linked to this position on the org chart. So if I was to remove this from here or delete the whole position, I'm not losing all of those processes. The only way to get rid of these completely is to go to the 4 key functions and delete them. And only an administrator can do that, by the way. So let's go back here to the org chart. So pretty easy to use the chart. Everything exists under these little 3 dots. Edit, add, remove. You can drag and drop to move the boxes around. And that's essentially it. So let's talk about just some best practices related to building the chart. Number 1, I mentioned a few minutes ago, which is position titles. Always position titles, never people's names. If you do want to see names on your organization chart when you look at the boxes, it's up to you. But to me, it gets cluttered when you put people's names in. The way that you and everyone else knows who fills what role is here on the dashboard. So in account administration, you assign users or people to positions on the org chart. So I'm the office manager, and because I'm the manager, I have this section which shows every position that's underneath me and every person who fills that role. So this is where I see the people's names in a more clear way. And if I had 5 administrative people or 2 bookkeepers, I'd see 2 or 5 names listed here. So I see everybody who's been assigned to that role, all the people who fill it. If I had 3 administrators and I went here to the org chart and I added all 3 of their names to this box, then it's eventually the names will disappear because it only gives you 2 rows here. And then if you clicked it, you would see it here on this screen. So you'd see, the names going off onto here. If you don't mind that, you can do it. But again, I think a much cleaner way to do it is just know that you can see it all on the dashboard. If you're the top box, like you're the president, you're going to see everybody's positions down here because the top box sees everyone through the dashboard. So you're going to see every position and every person who has been assigned that role. And you can see it all in a nice kind of list outline format here through the dashboard, instead of having to go to the chart and look around and click boxes to see who fills what role. Coming first quarter of next year, we're going to have some new features to the org chart. I'm not sure if the first go round is going to include this or not, but there eventually is going to be ways to put people's pictures in the boxes if you want. And other fancy things like making the boxes colors. To me, that's all just extra stuff that may not be necessary, but a lot of people want those extra features and to make it a little prettier than it is now. So names and boxes, position titles, not people's names. Another thing is you only need one box per position. So if I have five technicians, I don't need to have five technician boxes listed here. I don't need to have five duplicates. All I need is one. And then I know that in account administration and also seen through the dashboard that I assign all five of those people to this role here. And then I don't have, it's not necessary to create five separate boxes for them. It just makes the chart bigger and kind of just more to deal with because it's many, many, many boxes instead of just one where you know everyone's assigned to this role. Another thing that you'll run across if you do that is you'll have to duplicate the process lists. So here I've got this one customer support role. If I made four customer support boxes on the chart, well, I'm going to have to link all these processes to all four of those roles, and then through account administration, assign each person to a different role. And again, it's totally unnecessary. So if you have more than one person filling a role, then just have one box. Another cool thing that you can do is you can put in hire dates for future positions. So if I don't have a sales and marketing manager yet, or I don't have an office manager yet, I could go to this position. Or I could choose the edit button and I could say, hire Q1 2025, just like that, and then save. And then when you're looking at your chart, you can have these nice little hire dates here for positions that aren't filled yet. So to that point about positions that aren't filled yet, let's talk about some how to approach the organization chart. So how to initially build it as a strategic tool. The first thing that you want to do is have a plan. So have a strategic target, have an objective, have a vision. Even if you haven't written it out, imagine that in your head and think 2 years out at least. Probably not more than three. I think it's a little hard to plan for 3 years out. Some of you have ability to see way out in your type of industry or business, which is totally fine. But I think for practical purposes, 2 years is a good planning cycle. So 2 to 3 years. And imagine how big your business will be in those 2 years. So at the end of 2026, what is the revenue of this business? What is the sales that this business is going to produce? So look at the chart as if it's not what's happening now, but it is you in this strategic exercise sketching out this business of the future. So this business at the end of 2026 and where your vision shows you it will be, or where you choose to decide the level of growth that you want to have. If you're a manager on the call, I think departmental objectives are great. So any manager who sits down at the beginning of the year and says, what do I want for my department over the next 2 years? That's a good manager. You're thinking strategically, what positions do I want to have? What's the growth going to look like? Sometimes it takes collaboration between all three departments or four departments if you have them. So think about where you want the department or the business to be. Then start building this chart as a picture of that business in the future. So don't worry about the current situation. In fact, get it out of your mind completely and think, where do we want to be in 2 years? Then start top to bottom, building out the levels and the departments. First box here at the top, this is when you get your chart brand new, this is going to be there. It says board of directors. I would suggest that you don't delete this box. We get this question all the time. How do I delete this box? Don't delete it because every business, whether you have board meetings or not, needs this kind of strategic thinking that a board would generate. So you as the chairman of the board of directors, your agenda here is to maximize the value of the business. So that's what boards care about. They care about their asset and the dividends that it's going to create and the value of it when they go to sell it. So they're thinking much differently than even a president would, because this person's really thinking about how do I manage these people to get the results, and they're thinking what's their salary. So their agenda is much different than the owners, which is up here, the board of directors. And if you don't like this term board of directors, just put owners there or owner. And imagine this is you as the owner of this asset. You're not working in it. You're not worried about sales. You're thinking, how do I maximize the value of the business? Because that is a much bigger question than how do I increase sales? That's not the same thing. How do I maximize the value is a different question. So keep this position. Then underneath the board of the owners, you have the CEO, president, general manager. The term's not important. This is the position that is overseeing each department within the company. So the president receives their mission, their vision from the board up here. So the owners, with this, how do I increase the value of my asset agenda, then gives directives to the president. The problem in a lot of small growing businesses is you're this and you're this. So compartmentalizing is the only way that you can get the value of really considering and thinking of yourself as the owner, but you're also the president. So this kind of structure helps you because you can say, here I am as the owner, here I am as the president. Underneath president, there should be a manager above every key department. Typically, there are three departments in any functioning business: marketing and sales, operations right here, fulfillment, production, service, whatever it is, and then admin finance or your office. So these three departments each have individual results, or they have a collective departmental results that they're trying to achieve. This department is all about generating leads and converting those leads into sales. So it's all about getting the business, get new business, develop the sales. Operations is the delivering of the products or services. So everything that gets sold over here gets then thrown on operations or service delivery, and they deliver the results. Then office department is all about the quantifying of everything, the collecting of it all, and the support, the administrative support. So this department provides support for the whole company, the rest of the company. So with these three individual or departmental goals in mind, the president then takes the vision and then decides what needs to happen within each of these departments. But they can never do that effectively unless you have a manager, you have a leader who is in charge of each of the departments. So we'll just go left to right here quickly, and I'll kind of explain just some of the tactics I think are good in organizational strategy within each of these three departments. So in sales and marketing, some obvious things are you need advertising, you need lead generation, and you need sales. You can't just have a position and call it sales and expect that does everything. It's two far different things: generating leads, social media, brand awareness, all the things that happen with generating leads, and then taking qualified leads and converting them into sales. Those are two specific things. So think about your vision, how much you want to grow over the next 2 years, and decide what needs to happen within this department for that growth to be possible. How many leads are we going to need? What percentage of those leads need to convert at? How many sales do we need, and what percentage do all of the leads need to convert at into sales in order for the numbers to work? So think about it, think about the numbers. Marketing is an art, but it's also a science in that you should quantify or be able to quantify the results and what you need that will generate those results. And this all comes from really process-driven thinking. Because if I'm thinking advertising and who's doing that advertising and what are they doing, then I'm considering processes for lead generation, processes for how to generate internet leads, process for social media leads, processes for strategic alliances and referrals. Those are all processes that then need a step-by-step set of instructions on how that happens. And when you have that kind of documentation, then you can start to quantify and say, well, if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on leads, then they need to convert at a certain rate in order for that to work. And if they're not converting, is it an unqualified lead situation or is it a sales problem? So then we get into the sales area, also very process driven. What are your sales processes? What results should they create? This again can be artful in how you sell something, but it's definitely quantifiable. And if you're not measuring it, then you don't know how well your processes are working. You might know how well your people are selling, which is a different thing because the people selling is about the people. But if you have a process that they're using to sell, it's a much different thing. So think about this whole area. Who's the leader? How many salespeople do you need? How many advertising or social media, whatever it is? Do you need a marketing coordinator to be doing the administrative side of that? What support does this department need from this department in order to become effective? For example, if this department doesn't have a CRM or a CRM that's working, because a lot of you have CRMs, but are they working? Do you get reports? Can I tell these people what they're spending on advertising or what they need to spend or what they can spend? Can we then say also what's converting at a certain rate? All of that is should be provided by this department here, IT, computer support, and whatever else is needed to make this department more effective. So once the sales are coming in and you've got a strategy and a plan for that, then you need to talk about this department. So operations is where the delivering of these services, products, whatever it is that you're selling, happens. So when these people over here are selling things in a certain way for a certain amount, this department is then responsible for delivering those services exactly as they were sold to the customer. So this department here is all about having effectively trained people. So trained people who know how to deliver those products or services, which also points to processes. Do you have processes in place to train people? There's a strategy that works really well in operations, and it's all about just creating levels in your organization chart. So you add a position here and you call this we'll call this junior tech. And then that is underneath the senior tech. And then you can even have like entry level technician. And um, this works for any type of organization. You don't have to necessarily be production or construction for this kind of these words, these terms are service or construction driven, but you can have your own words for these levels. Even in high level services, you can have entry level, junior, senior. And what this creates is a ladder to then create fully trained people that are going to be able to take sales that are sold over here and deliver them within budget with the productivity that's necessary for you to get the net profit, the gross profit, then the net profit that you need. So developing an entry level position, then junior, then senior, you'll be able to say, I'm hiring people here at a certain level. Either they have college degrees, they have high school diplomas, whatever it is, I'm hiring here at a certain level, and you determine what their minimum qualifications need to be. Then they're learning the processes that are in this position, and they move up here. So once they learn the entry level positions, then they move up to junior. Then they learn the positions, the processes that are in the junior level, and then they move up here to senior. And then at this level, they're probably able or they should be able to produce, deliver your products or services in a profitable way. Within a gross profit that will work for you. The problem happens when sales start coming in over here and you start funneling all of the sales to your operations and you don't have fully trained people to deliver those services. So you're then running around trying to hire people quickly and you're getting people who are competent here, but they're not competent here. And it takes time to develop those people. So this is the part that, you don't like to face ever, that there needs to be There needs to be development from within. There needs to be training. But this is what touchstone and process implementation is about, helping you to identify what those processes are. Because ideally, it would be great if you could say, I'm going to hire an entry level technician, service person, whatever it is, salesperson for that matter, entry level. I'm going to train them in my processes. And within 6 months, they're going to be junior. And then I'm going to train them at the junior level for another 6 months. And then within a year, they're going to be senior technicians delivering exactly on time, every time, exactly as promised. But it takes a year to get them from here to here. There's no way around that. Like you have to be able to face it and quantify it and know. Otherwise, this whole idea of scaling your business, it's way less profitable, it's way more confusing, and it's really challenging because you're always trying to find this person. And this is when you hear operations managers say, well, we can't find good people. There's nobody out there. There's unqualified people are answering our ads, and then we hire them and we waste all this time because they weren't what they said they were. So all of this kind of complaining really stems from the fact that you're not developing your own training, your own plan from within, where you can take entry level people and move them up to senior. Now, the question always gets asked, well, what happens if I spend all this time and money to hire and train these people for a whole year and then they leave and go to work for my competition? There's no way around that. The only thing to do is what is Michael Gerber talks about, create a game worth playing. Also, create the bus everyone wants to be on. So create a game worth playing, create a business where people want to be. I mean, that's the thing you have to do because then everyone from your competition is going to come want to work for you. And it doesn't have to be that difficult to create an environment where people want to be. It's all about good management and it's about having training and an environment that they can rely on. So think about this for your business, this operational idea of having levels. It can be super magical when you go to when you start to grow, or you intend to like get kind of off the plateau you are now into the next level. Because all of you know who aren't, privately funded, it's always a balancing act between sales and marketing over here and operations. It's always like, do we have enough sales to then hire all these technicians to then have them ready in time to deliver all the sales? Do we hire all these people and sit on this overhead while we're ramping up the sales? So it's this up and down all the time when you're trying to scale. But having a good organization strategy where you're seeing where people come into your organization, what their plan or their level up is, and how long it takes, then you've really started to look at this like a franchise, something that you can replicate over and over again. And that's all about good organization strategy and process development, but it starts with the organization chart. So let's talk a little bit about this department. This is sometimes considered the overhead, which I think is a bad way to say it because this is more the support. So what level of support does your business need? If you minimize this department, then you minimize the effectiveness of the other departments. Because if these people can do things, these positions can do things to make these departments' lives so much more effective and better. This idea here of growing from here to here to here, or even being able to tell what your cost of goods sold is, um, any of that comes from good quantification, which comes from good support, computer support, and administrative support. So having systems in place that measure productivity, having time logs where people track what they're doing, and then that goes over here to the accounting system where they then spit out reports to give to this person so this person knows what is my productivity? Did I make money on that job? What was the job costing? How many defects did we have? Is the service delivery 90%, all of these things that you need to measure and have in order to measure the effectiveness of operations all comes from, good ways of measuring. And then we already talked about sales and marketing over here. Like if you don't know what leads are costing or what your conversion rate is, it's very hard to then profitably grow anything. Or for this person here to be able to tell the effectiveness of their sales process, not the effectiveness of their sales people, but the effectiveness of their sales process. Like what results is the process creating? Also, simple things like human resources. Any of you who've been in business for long enough know that you're bound to have some human resource issues. And if you don't have good procedure in place for employee handbook and recruiting and hiring and firing and all of those things, then that can bite you really easily. We have some really great processes in our process library related to HR over here in running the business, bookkeeping, having payables, receivables, a good accounting system that is up to date all the time with the ways that, banking is done nowadays. There's no reason for your P&Ls to be a month old before you look at them. That's just ridiculous. That just is, bad bookkeeping. That's a process problem, or not having enough people to produce reports for you on time. Because if you can't say within a week at the most what happened last month, then you are really in no position to do anything about it to change it for the following month or quarter. Customer support, this position can be here, or, sometimes it's here. Um, if you're not large enough to have a customer support position, think about the work that goes on in customer support and who should be accountable for that. Because this is all about making sure that your customers are taken care of, your clients are taken care of. If complaints are happening, we've all heard this, that's an opportunity for making improvements. Very true. And if you're trying to build a process dependent business, when you hear a complaint, that's a process opportunity, right? That's an opportunity to go in and evaluate the process that occurred that resulted in that complaint, and how can we innovate that. Also, customer support is all about your reputation online, which is very important, not in all industries, but in a lot. Also, customer appreciation, which creates referrals. So all of this is really good, important work that often doesn't get done because everybody's busy, right? You're too busy doing it here, selling over here, and no one's really looking and saying, how did we do? So build your organization chart with those principles or concepts in mind. Have it be a real picture of the vision of your business in 2 years. Look at this and be able to say, this is a well-constructed set of positions for my industry, for a business of my kind. If you do this and then you look at your current situation and you don't really see a way to lay over people's names in these boxes, well, then you have a real disorganizational mess going on. And this chart is a way to change that. So often what happens in a growing business is you need help with sales. So you hire Bob, and then Bob starts helping you a little bit with sales. And then you're like, man, those leads really aren't qualified. Bob says, oh, I'm really good at social media. Maybe I can start doing that. He starts doing some social media. Then a customer complains over here, and Bob's like, oh, I can deal with that customer. And then the computer breaks, and Bob's like, ooh, I really know how about hard drives. I'll fix that. And then suddenly he's all over the organization doing all kinds of great stuff, but based on what his skills and his experience are. And then Bob becomes like this person you can't live without. And if anything was to happen to Bob, you don't know what you would do. And Bob himself is probably a wreck because he's multitasking all over the place. He's accountable for so much. He doesn't know what to do. He gets really married in how he does it, so he can't delegate. That's really hard. He's never been taught that. And this happens over and over and over again, all across. So the organization chart is a way to rectify that without upsetting Bob. We don't want to upset him. The way to rectify that is to build the structure like we've talked about, departments, positions for the future, and then start laying people's names in boxes. So if Bob's a salesperson, then he gets this box. If he's also customer support, then he gets this box. If he's also the receptionist, then he gets this box. Unfortunately, that's the case of what's happened to Bob. You, if you're the owner, you're the president. If you don't have an operations manager, you're the operations manager. If you made a sale the other day, you're also a salesperson. So put your name in the boxes according to who's doing what. Don't make the boxes about the person. Don't say, okay, we have Bob, he's a salesperson. Let's put everything he does listed here under this box. Don't do that because you're then creating people dependency. Create all three of these boxes and then put his name in those. So don't let anything detract you from this. I was talking to like a homegrown family business the other day, big business, and they had such bad people dependency. And a lot of it had to do with family members and their feelings and all of that. But this is an objective way to explain it to people and to rectify it because you can say there, who's doing what, who's filling what role. Now, there's a couple rules about this to keep in mind. One is that one per two people's names can't be in the same box. So if it's this situation where you have five technicians, well, clearly that's fine. Five people's name can be in this box. But if you have two people who are the operations manager, when you do this, you're like, well, I don't know how to decide who does it, so let's put both their names in here. Or I had a really great salesperson. I made him the sales manager, but then he only does part of that, and I'm also that. So let's put both our names in here. Don't do that. Decide who is going to be accountable. And if you've hired somebody beyond their capabilities and qualifications, then simply explain to them, I'm going to make you the senior sales director. Whatever the title they need is not important. And then I'm going to be the sales manager until we get to this point where we've documented all the processes. And then you can apply for this role. Or if you learn them all and you're really good at it, then I'll promote you back to this role. So have those tough conversations when you do this organization chart exercise, because if two people are accountable, like no one's accountable. And really, the person that you've promoted beyond their capabilities is miserable anyway and is not respected by these people down here because they know you're just going to come in and do what you want anyway. So I think when you talk about I'm not talking about lowering people's salaries because that's where the rub starts to happen. You'll probably have to keep them at the salary you gave them, but just move them back to the role that's appropriate. Another rule is, and do your best with this one, try not to have people who span departments. So the Bob scenario, if Bob is here and he's also here, it's very difficult to juggle a workload like that. We talked about the results of each department, getting sales, delivering the sales, supporting the company. If I take one person and I'm pulling them apart in those three ways, trying to force them to have an agenda that works, the results don't transfer. First of all, it's not true that people are good at everything. And the results that Bob is generating are very fragmented and it's very stressful. So try, if possible, to pull a person like that back into one role and then perhaps delegate or at least create a plan for creating this customer support role and the positions that are necessary. Have Bob help you with that and then move him back to sales and hire someone for here. So the steps for this are think of your vision, build your organizational chart, thinking of the good principles of organizational design, productivity, like results, build it with your vision in mind, and then take your current situation and lay it over this chart. Put people's names in boxes according to what they're doing. Now, how you put names in boxes is you go up here to a user accounts and account administration, and you add people if you haven't done this already, and then you choose their position here under control panel. Oops, I'm going to choose mine. And then you give them control panels for the position they fill. So I'm the chairman of the board or the owner. I'm the president. I'm a manager there. And I'm also the office manager. So this is someone who's filling three roles on the organization chart. When you do that, when they log into TouchStone, they're going to see three boxes here under control panel. And when you're moving someone out of a position in hopefully creating the processes for these roles and then moving them out, temporarily it might look like this. And it's better to acknowledge that rather than creating one box and calling it Shannon. I'm all three of these. And then I can say to myself, all right, I'm going to do the office manager work today. Let me click here. What do I need to do? And I can go through the end of the year stuff. I can look at managerial things. And then maybe every Friday I say, okay, I'm going to do the owner's work. Then on 2 days a week, I'm going to do president's work. This same kind of scenario can be for your employees who span the organization chart. Help them to work on the positions, identify the work that happens, do that work until there's a possibility where you can hire new people. Then you remove them from that role and you add the new person. So this again is just a very methodical way to look through your organization if it's full of people dependency and structure it in with an organizational strategy that makes sense. Now, how this chart is used day to day is, first of all, it shows the hierarchy, which I mean, I live in California and I've seen circle organization charts and there's no manager and we all flow together. To me, that doesn't work very well. So there has to be some level of hierarchy. Um, this is a very practical kind of way to structure it. If you want to have managers who don't tell people what to do, or you want to, morph that into something different, you can have a management philosophy which says something different, but the chart itself is a hierarchy. Um, so this chart can be looked at and people know who reports to who. They can also use it to see where they can go in the company. So I can start here and I can go here and I can go here. Or maybe I'm a salesperson and then I want to learn how to do marketing coordination. I don't want to do sales anymore. I could move over here. This is a small chart. Yours is probably much larger, and you can see kind of the hierarchy and the way people can move around on the chart, especially when you have like the entry level, junior, senior. I can have a goal to kind of move up and I can look at this chart and see, where I want to be and what my goals are. It also makes it very clear who does what. Because eventually, in very short order, you'll have a list of what each position does. So here under customer support, these are all the things that the customer support person does. Now, Bob is this, and he's also salesperson, and he's also IT, and he may not be able to do all this effectively because he only has 40 hours in a week, but at least you've got all this listed out. And if temporarily the manager has to help with, reputation monitoring, you can go here and add this to the manager's position as well and say, okay, well, the marketing person has to do reputation monitoring um, and along with Bob. And so that's how TouchStone shows that. You just add it to this position and this position. So play around with which processes you assign to which role, but it makes it much clearer for people to say who does what. Because often in fast growing, big, not process dependent businesses, there gets to be this issue with who does what, who's really accountable. What is that person really doing? I hired them, they look really busy. Well, what are they really doing? So this makes that clear and transparent. It's also used as a strategy tool to see where you're going. So here with this idea, I'm hiring this position in Q1 of 2025. I think quarters of the year are good things to plan for. I know that I'm going to implement some new sales strategies over here. I think it's going to take 2 months to hit. So I want to hire my entry level positions, knowing it's going to take them 6 months to get from here to here. So you can put in dates and times, but I'm using this to gauge my scaling. Like I'm going to grow here, so I need to add here. And rather than just getting that anxiety of, am I going to have enough money to pay the people in operations? Is that really going to work? You can measure it in a quantitative way and do it with a lot more confidence than just kind of guessing. So in the 10 minutes we have left, I'm going to show a few processes from our library, which I think are amazing, and they kind of dovetail with what we've been talking about in organizational strategy. The first one is, I'm going to do this one first. This is called Welcome to the Company. This is something like so easy to do and add to TouchStone, and it can be this really great onboarding for your employees. So this Welcome to the Company, you can download from the process library right here. I'm in strategy and management, or this might be still called guiding the business inside your account. But I go here and I can download this process from the library. This process is just a standard. This is what happens when you join our company. So you put your name here, you just click this, edit it, put your name in here. And then down here, there's a document, which is the welcome message. There's examples in here. So this is, you decide what you want this to be. I'm gonna archive this so I can keep this example in the archive. That's what I just did. But then I'm going to go and edit this. And let's imagine you edited this down and you like example one. So I'm just editing this form and I'm getting rid of, this whole example, write the message thing. And then here it is. And then I save it. So now this is my welcome message. You can also have a company story, which I think is another fabulous thing. This is just an example of one. So you go through and edit this. We thinking back to this idea of creating a game worth playing. Like, what is your story? What is that heartfelt kind of mission that caused you to develop this company or your department for that matter, if you want to do this for a department? What is your why factor? Why are you doing this? What is this context? People just need, great leadership is just a little tap sometimes. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary. It's just a little tap saying, hey, this is who we are. Read it, and do you gravitate towards that? Then that gives context and meaning for what people are coming to work every day for. So same idea, you just click this and you go in and edit this down and make it your own. Super easy. Then another thing you can do is make a little Loom video. Remember Loom? I did that little step by step for it, but this right here is Loom. You can download this for free. Open up Loom. You can have your camera on your computer. You can talk right into this and record it. People probably have other screen recording options, but take your cell phone. Stand in the parking lot, have someone put the cell phone up to your face and say, hey, welcome to my company. I developed this business. I'm so glad you're here. Just like that. And then you upload it right here, drag and drop into the field, and then boom, you have this nice little video. Videos don't need to be big Hollywood productions. If you do that, then you get married to it and you never want to change it because you spent so much money doing it. Just whip out your cell phone and make a video. So then you've developed this welcome to the company. I'd probably make it a public process. Put it in the public folder. And then here on the dashboard, now it's a public process. Welcome to the company. It's right here. And then when a new employee comes on board, I can go here to assign and I choose them and I choose welcome to the company. Maybe I also want them to have the employee handbook, new employee onboarding. I tick off everything that they need to have. I could give it a due date, write a little message, hit assign, and then that new employee gets an email that says, hey, your manager wants you to review all these things before your first day at work. They click it, go into TouchStone, go right here to what you assign to them, and they see this nice little, you can see it's all cleaned up here. All we see is the welcome message, one click, boom, here's your welcome message. They review it, company story, same idea, and they can watch the video. So think about this welcome to the company. Similarly, there's this mission, purpose, values. So mission, purpose, values should also be very simple, but it really has to do with the why and the creating a game worth playing. What is our mission collectively here? So we've got some tools in here, how to create one, really simple step by step for doing it. We have an example in here of different types of mission purpose values. So here's, what is a mission, a sample mission. So you look at this form, here's some questions or simple values that you can draw from. So I'm going to go and archive this again, just because I want to be able to recall it later, the template. Then if I was doing this, I'd go here and say mission is, and I'd delete this and say XYZ. That's the mission. Here's a sample mission. We'll use that one. The mission is this. Then purpose questions. What is your purpose? So read these questions, come up with your purpose. Here's an example. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to delete this. That is my purpose. Core values. What are your core values? Sample core values. Let's delete this. Yeah, we'll go right to there. Here's the core values. Delete this. If you decided to use some of ours, let's say you want to use these top 3 because you like them. That's it. You did it. Save it. And then I would make it again a public process. So I'm going to go here. It might already be public. Oh, and then I'd put it in the public folder. Boom, we have our mission purpose values. Not very hard. But the impact that it has is for your everyday employees and for your new employees. Now you got this great little thing here, mission purpose values. Welcome to the company. If I saw this, if you hired me, I'd be like, wow, this company's got their act together. Look at this. Everything is here right now that I need. I can go here to my position and see everything that I do. But even if you don't have all the processes documented, you now have at least those 2 things here in your public area. And you can really help employees to see, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. Here at Business Design Corp, we have a mission, purpose, values statements. And all the time under these sets right here, if we're ever faced with a predicament or a problem with an employee with someone else, a group of employees, a customer, we'll often go back to our values and say, what if we let the values decide, what would the decision be? And that's, I think, a special thing that really amazing companies do. And this is the type of stuff that I think creates employees who want to be and want to do what your business is doing. Okay, one more. Go back here. Here's this called strategic planning. This right here, management philosophy, is also a wonderful thing. I'll talk more about that next week, but this is another thing that I would put right up there with a mission, purpose, values, and welcome to the company. But here's strategic planning. You can download this from the library, and this process kind of walks you through everything on how to create a strategic plan. There's work plans here that are step by step. There's a video. There's these tools you can use, like creating annual priorities. There's all kinds of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through every single thing. There's a video that you can watch, I think is Michael Mills talking about strategic planning. Don't let this intimidate you. Sometimes I wish they would just like chop this down to like maybe just this form. The idea is just to create a plan. So think about your business over the next 2 years. These are all editable like before, so you could change this to 25 and set a series of annual priorities, a set of annual priorities. What do you want to do next year? What are your goals? It doesn't have to be some well-written thesis. Just make a list. What are the things that you want to do? You can increase sales by 20%. Simple as that. What's the next thing you want to do? Hire this, create a training plan for technicians, whatever it is. You list out all these annual priorities. You can add more rows to this. Then the idea is to take these annual priorities and put them into quarterly goals. So of all these things, what do I need to do in the first quarter? What am I going to do? So let's say increase sales by 20% was one of your goals for the quarter. It's not going to let me copy it, but you get the idea. So you put it here. Then you want to say what action needs to be taken in order for that to happen. So do you need to look at the sales process, lead generation? What is it? So you list out these actions to take. And then within Q1, you can even delegate these actions, but you take the actions in Q1. If you don't achieve the goal in Q1, this quarterly priority, then you can throw it down into Q2. So really simple concept. List all the priorities here and then go down and put them into quarters of next year and have these really simple scorecards in a way or goals that you can track and keep and delegate to your employees. So these three oops, I'm going to go all the way back here. These three processes are what we talked about today. You can download those from the library. These two you can probably implement and use in like less than an hour. Strategic planning, a little bit more extensive than that. Think about your organization chart when you're coming up with your strategic plan, because this is a picture of your strategic plan. Like this is the skeleton of it. This is the people that are going to make it happen. These are the departments that are going to be accountable for the results. In your Q1 goals of increasing sales by 20%, this person gets that directive from the owner and then says, hey, sales manager, we need to increase sales by 20% Q1. What are we going to do? And then they create the actions. So that's how strategic plan and organization strategy come together.